Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm looking a little washed out here with the light. I got to figure this out here. Oh God, that's the wrong direction. Let's try something else. All right, that's not working. I'm looking. The lighting is not right. I gotta get my right side. Three Beards Podcast brought to you by Radio. I'm sure he loved that introduction. Okay, how about we just take two and try this again? Hey, I'm sure you like that introduction. Wow, look at this. You guys are gonna. This is take it. This is live. Hey, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. ish Eastern time. So you get what you get. This is why you guys show up, because you love it. You love just the raw nature of this show. It's not polished in any way. No. So we have a guest with us. I've been friends with him on Facebook for a little while, and we kind of reached out and like told him I'd try to get him on the show at some point, and then finally was able to make that happen. And John Russell, he is long time in profession of being a psychic of over 50 years. So he's done I think medium, clairvoyant. He's got many spiritual gifts that he processes. He even has his latest book out, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. And he also has two other books as well. And this just kind of give you guys a tease too. We're also going to talk about some point in the show. We're going to talk about the crying tree, which is going to be, I think it's the crying tree, and Magic Rock is his book that he's going to be working on. That's going to be coming out next year at some point. But for anybody, when you read that story, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, at the end of the book, he has a nice little teaser preview for that upcoming one of the crying tree. And it's actually just even in itself, it's almost like the Hans Christian Andersen, just Grimm's fairy tales type story, where it's one of those where it's pretty cool. It's one of those where you can believe it or not, like I said, it's one of those either way. It's a really cool story, and you really like the, how just in the teaser. So if that little teaser is that way, I'm sure the rest of the book is more. Like Reading Rainbow says, if you want to know, you need to buy the book. All right. So anyway, sit back, relax, think of your questions. I said, he's already going to know the answer to them. So, so just, one of those things. I'm not sure. This isn't one of those 1-800 number ones. That's not how we do these things. So sit back. We will get here and think. And like I said, I've got any questions for John, bring up, like I said, about him, because his book, like I said, is different ways to increase your psychic abilities. So if you have any questions like what to look for, those are the type of questions. I'm not sure if we're going to sit here all night talking, it's like, hey, what should I name my dog? We're not going to do those kind of questions. So, all right. So everybody just sit back, and we will be back after this.
Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name's Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is why you
justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
Like I said, look how professional I did that. See, and instead of waiting for it, it just came right in. I'm getting better, folks.
Not as professional as that opening monologue you just did.
Hey, I've never even promised to be a professional. I'm like I try to play one as on TV, but yeah,
Pardon me now.
It's every now and then I've got to have my screw ups. It's keeps the humility, in focus in the forefront. But how have you guys been this last week? It's been busy. We survived, thankfully. Like you said, luckily that prediction did not come true. So we're good.
No.
We're good there. That's one of those fortunate ones. That's one of those where those are the predictions you want to not come true.
I still have the 16th of November.
Yep. So it's
and the 23rd that were big on my list of things.
So we'll find out tomorrow. As I'm getting on with Into the Outer Realms with Joey for Sinister Mysteries, it's going to be like, hey Joey, by the way, crap, Brian's right.
I don't know what it is. It just feels like those days are they've been coming up a lot with a lot of different people that I deal with, and on remote viewing. It's on my calendars. There's a couple of dates. But also Elon Musk has his large phallus that's going into the stratosphere. Will it break
Friday
through the firmament?
I'm looking forward to this thing launching. You got approval, so I mean, yeah, I'm excited Starship, because we watched that first one. I mean, for anybody that doesn't understand, this is literally like throwing rockets underneath the Empire State Building and lighting the match and just watching this thing fly off into the sky. I mean, this thing's a monster. It's a
where's it coming out of?
in any town.
Is that going to be in
Cape
Florida?
Canaveral?
It is Cape Canaveral?
Nope, it's Boca.
Nope.
It's over in space over there in come on, the name.
Boca Raton?
No, I think it's like Boca Chica, Texas.
It's coming to Boca Chica, Texas. Okay.
Yeah, because that's his main facility here. They are building a Starship launch pad in Canaveral.
Yeah.
So eventually they are going to go here. I mean, their goals.
That's a pretty big chip. That's what it is.
I believe the last time I heard the details, it was something like, I want to say his plan was over 200 of these a year.
Well, if he breaks the firmament, we're screwed, right?
Well, that's if people believe that there's a firmament dome. I said yes. There's the two camps. One where there's a
snow globe.
Yeah, there's one that the reason it curves is because it hits the glass and it just keeps going. And then there's the other ones that might be the way you need to do to escape gravity. But hey, there's those two camps. And so
there's just whatever.
Well, see, Alan, you said when the first one blew up, it was devastating. It was one of those things. That's what a lot of people actually thought. It was actually, believe it or not, the more explosive destruction you get from one of those rockets, the more information you learn. It's literally one of those things. The mistakes, and everybody thought like SpaceX. The reason why SpaceX is as good as they are is because of all the mistakes that happened in the beginning. If you can go on YouTube, you can get the montage, and you can just watch SpaceX rockets blowing up. I mean, you could have the music dun, 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 dun. You got all these rockets just exploding, not working. Well, look at it now. Jeff Bezos can't get his penis rockets to even get up, out of the the outer atmosphere. And SpaceX is launching astronauts and satellites and doing stuff, and Bezos is just riding up like Sir Branson, just going up in the upper sky and just like, I made it to space. No, you didn't.
Bezos is moving to Florida, by the way.
You know why?
Just we need another dick in Florida.
There's a certain little thing called tax breaks that they don't have to pay a certain tax thing like they do in Washington. So it's basically his whole thing of, well, I'm just really sad that I'm just really heartbroken over this thing. No, you're not. You're saving a bunch of money by moving to Florida.
I'll tell you. I mean, there are certain disadvantages. I mean, there's that Palm Beach County tax. It's like 7% on everything. I think.
Yeah, Palm Beach County is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and it's all, and Allen's saying it too. It's also a lot easier to come in and out of port with your massive yacht down around Miami than it is in the
Yeah.
Puget Sound in Seattle. It's a
Yeah.
lot easier. Just, you know.
But
Yeah,
you know what they call Palm Beach though?
What? Huh?
What?
Politicians' playground. Everything is high in Palm Beach, and that was before even your old boy got there. They called it politician playground.
Well, maybe that's
Yeah.
that's Mar-a-Lago, and that's one of those things too. It's why do you think?
Beautiful place.
Why do you think I built this most tremendous, beautiful place where I do all my golfing right here in Florida? It's because of these things. All right. Now we'll find out if John expected this or not. But so John Russell,
Bring
sir,
them up to the top.
how
square.
are you? You're upper square. You're not going down on the bottom there.
Right.
This is like Hollywood Squares, right?
That's right.
There you
John
go.
Russell for the block.
Yes.
I'll be Paul Lynn.
Yes. So first, let me bring this up here for people so that way they can see. I want to get for your site. So it's let's. Oh my goodness. All right. I did so good on that one thing, and then this part I'm really failing.
Well,
All right, here we go
tonight, folks.
All right.
Here it is.
Shoot.
Yep. You can go johnrussell.net, and that'll get you there. You can also go. We're not even going to worry about that one. It's one of those long ones. It's going to be easier. Just go johnrussell.net, and it'll take you right here to this spot.
There you go.
Yep. You can schedule reading with him. You can also read a lot of, like I said, he's got. If you go to his credentials about him, you'll get all those things, testimonials. Writing with Ghosts, Angels, and the Spirits of the Dead, and Knock in the Attic are two of his other books.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes.
Sure.
John, where could someone that wants an autographed copy pick up one from you?
Well, actually, when you click on the links to go to each book's website, there's links to order autographed copies there on each book's website. So if you go to johnrussellauthor.com, johnrussellauthor.com, that's my author's page, and each book will have its own individual page it opens up because each book has won a lot of awards. All the awards are listed there. They have a lot of endorsements like from Uri Geller, Mike Ricksecker, other well-known authors, and so on and so forth. Those are there, and a bunch of editorial reviews and so on and so forth. And then each book's page also has a link to, if you go down further a little ways there on that page, you'll see each book cover. You can click on that and it takes you to that book's page. And there's also an Amazon link where you can buy it directly at Amazon. But each book's page has links to buy if they're available at Amazon, Books Million, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, Walmart, Target, all over the place. So you can get them just about anywhere online. But the links are provided on each book's website. So if you have a preference, you can utilize that. And then each book's page has a link for an autographed copy.
That's a lot of hardware there, sir.
Yeah.
Got a few wins there.
Yeah. I mean, we can personally boycott these ones that gave you a bronze. I'm not sure what the hell's wrong with them.
Well, actually, that's okay.
Everybody else is going.
That bronze comes from Reader's Favorite International, which is an international book competition, and they're one of the most prestigious book competitions there is. And I was happy to take a bronze in that year. I mean, there's people that like.
Oh yeah.
There's Hollywood celebrities that win in this thing. Neil deGrasse Tyson medaled the same year I did in that competition in his category. So I was happy for the bronze, and then I got a silver this year. So it's climbing up the ranks there.
Yeah. It's kind of. I was just looking at that award. That Reader's Favorite, that 5 stars, and Chris has got that. On his shirt, 5-star.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that was kind of right there. That's pretty cool. No, so we'll get because we talked about the title is just kind of get my wife liked it too. The makings of a psychic. That's what I went with this.
There you
That's
go.
what I want to be. I really want to be a psychic.
You can.
That's kind of
book
20 ways to increase your psychic abilities. But the first question I had, it's kind of the obligatory one that most get it just out of the way.
Sure.
Is what is for somebody that's thinking like, okay, I feel like I've got this, blah, 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 blah. Just go down, whatever. They feel
Mhm.
like they look at they see their dog and they kind of have this thing, like, I have this really good idea of what the dog's going through. You can go down the list of different things, but what would you say is a great starting point? Like somebody to say, I might have something here, like the potential indicators. What would you, yeah.
We all have a degree of psychic ability. And what I try and get people to understand is that we all have a degree of musicianship. And so I might take 3 years of piano lessons and sit down at the keyboard and you're like, oh God, not this again, John, please, please. And then some kid, 5 years old, sits down, hears Beethoven and rips through it from memory and goes on to become a concert pianist that can literally evoke every emotion that we have with their playing.
Wow.
And it's the same way with psychic abilities. We all have them to a degree. Some people are never going to progress past the point that, oh, I bet that's Aunt Sally calling on the phone. Sure enough, it's Aunt Sally. And they're never going to progress much beyond that. So we all have our plateaus. We all have our levels that we can go to. And when we were talking backstage before we came on, I said, that's one of my pet peeves is people that are interested in developing their abilities and they read a book like mine, which will help them, which will work. But that doesn't make you a professional psychic, and that doesn't make you able to give accurate input and guidance into people's lives. That's a starting point. I started with my paranormal experiences at the age of 5, began to develop my psychic gift at the age of 6, studied and read everything on the planet that I could get my hands on in the realm of psychology, parapsychology, the paranormal religions, psychic, everything. And then started doing paranormal investigations about the age of 11. And by the time I was 15, 16, I was reading for friends and family. And I was so accurate, I had people driving 200 miles one way to get a reading with me. And then at the age of 18, I turned professional, began to read professionally. And I've read professionally now for over 50 years. I've read for clients in 40 countries, over 40 countries. And I never stopped learning. I never stopped developing. I never stopped growing. It's a lifelong commitment. It's a lifelong dedication. And there's so many people that don't understand the commitment, the dedication that it takes to develop the gift and to take it as far as you can. And so that's the starting point for people is like, okay, let's find your level. Let's realize that you're probably not going to be the next Uri Geller, that type of thing.
Oh yeah, no, I said I can't attribute who said it, but it was it's one of those where only a fool proclaims that they have nothing left to learn.
Exactly.
Question
and the older I have gotten and the more I have learned and listened, and 60 some odd years of hard, rigorous study, I've learned a lot. And the more I've learned and the older I've got, the less I know.
Question. As far as people are concerned, and I've always said that everybody has this gift and ability, and it's just exercising it. It's like a muscle. Would you say that the first gift that everybody pretty much has is that when you're that intuition, that feeling, and it's escaping me right now. When you start to feel, when people are upset and that when things are just like, that person is having a great day, just by passing them.
Like an empathetic feeling.
Yeah. It's empathy being it, but that feeling right there. And I forgot the damn name of the gift that it is. It's the worst gift ever, but it's when you have it. Empath. That's it. Your empathic ability.
Empathy. Yeah.
Would that be the first gift that people should, if they're really empathic, and they know, then should pursue it a lot more? Or is there a way to develop just the empath to start that off?
Well, it depends on the individual. Some people are going to be naturally stronger in areas than they are in others. And so the first thing that people should do when they're trying to develop their psychic gifts is to figure out where they're strongest, what they're most attracted to, what seems to work for them. And if they don't know that, then they can take a book like mine, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, which has 20 different tools and techniques in it. and they can experiment with that and find what they're naturally attracted to and what they seem to be good at and what really works for them and advances them in their life and works for them in their life. I've always encouraged people, when I was learning, when I was coming up as a kid, I didn't put any restrictions on myself and I didn't put any labels on myself. I didn't say I'm just a psychic, but I'm not a medium and I'm not a dowser and I'm not a this. I didn't put any restrictions on myself and I didn't put any labels on myself because I said, okay, if I've got this gift, I should be psychic and be able to foretell the future and have insights into people's lives. I should be able to contact the dead on the other side and integrate my gifts with communicating with nature spirits, with deceased loved ones, so on and so forth. I should be able to use a dowsing rod or a pendulum or a Ouija board or tarot cards or whatever. And so I did that. I experimented with everything and I didn't put any restrictions on myself, and I allowed myself to learn to practice as much as I possibly could. And I discovered through that process that I had stronger affinities, stronger gifts, and stronger powers in certain areas than others. It didn't mean that I couldn't practice those other areas. And it didn't mean that I couldn't do them fairly proficiently. But it was just that there were certain things that were a natural gift and a natural focus, such as reading for my clients. That's always been the priority. And that kind of took precedence over everything else. And it didn't mean I couldn't do those other things. And sometimes I introduce those things into readings or into paranormal investigations or whatever when it's appropriate, when it's right. But that's the main thing people need to do. They need to focus on a select few things and not try and do everything at once when you're starting out. It has to be a growing period. It has to be a learning period. You have to get your feet under you. You have to find out what works and what doesn't. And it can be a long and arduous process. And so people that are wanting to learn, wanting to start out, that's one of the reasons that I wrote my latest book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, is because over the years, my clients were always asking me, how do I develop? How do I get better? What do I do? And most people don't have any clue where to start, what actually it takes to develop a psychic gift. Yep. They've been told so much rigmarole their entire lives. People have made things difficult. And one of the first things that you'll discover when you start investigating psychic growth or books on magic, metaphysical books, is this works if you do it at midnight on the third month of the year. When you cut a willow branch and are standing outside. No, you don't have to do in the field. That stuff. And you don't have to buy expensive, hard to find things, and you don't have to use rare herbs and this, that, and the other. And so that's another reason that I wrote this book, was to say, look, here is the simplification of all these tools and techniques. If you want to learn it, and if you want to practice it and get good at it, here it is. You don't have to buy expensive stuff. Most of the things in this book you can do with things that are already in your house.
Well, yeah, in your book too. Like you said, one of those things, like one of the comments from Ron, our sponsor, he was talking about too. If you actually look at the chapter titles, I would probably say at least half of these is something that you experience while you're at mass at a Catholic church.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. Amulets and talismans. What does the priest have?
Yeah.
They have them on there. You have the you're walking by, you got candles. Yeah, you got candles. Yeah. You have all this stuff going on. And like I said, one of your books is the candle magic. Well, right there, you're lighting candles, offerings to spirits.
Yep.
One of those things, you're doing the Holy Sacrament. Yeah. It just these
St. Christopher medal.
Yeah. So you look at these things. Yeah. What's that?
I'm using
the tree of life.
Yeah.
It's a tree of life, but it's made from shungite. And what it does is it helps for my remote viewing. Started using it. It helps to block out EMF.
Right.
And gets you to a better focus.
So I wrote this book was simplified for people and to show people, look, you don't have to have expensive things. You don't have to do complex, weird, bizarre, difficult things. It's just, here it is. If you want it to work, this is how to do it. And I take people by the hand, lead them step by step through every tool and technique in the book. I define it for you, explain what it is. I tell you how to learn it, how to practice it, how to get good at it, and then the real world application of it. So that was the impetus for writing the book.
Yeah, my mastery was chapter 11. I mastered that one. Attracting the perfect mate.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, me and my wife have been together for 28 years. And so
There
like
you
I said,
go.
it was
There
one
you
of
go.
those, first
And
day of
that's what he
college, I go,
He
apparently
thinks it, but
not letting her say, not taking no for an answer was the way to go.
right,
I
it's
said,
settled, honey. We're getting married.
I
But
just
didn't
wore her
say
down.
Wearing her down. There you go.
That's
you
right.
hang, you
So-
Like
carry her
Leonard
over the
and Penny
shoulder,
on
right?
Big Bang.
So when you were growing up and you were, developing this, and you started, you said I was laughing, I was chuckling when you said, and I did a lot of readings for family.
Mhm.
Did you ever get yourself in trouble or say something that should have been said, like
Oh Lord, yeah.
Uncle Fred,
Lord,
like
yeah.
really, you're
Yeah,
screwing the
because
waitress
I
down at the
never
diner?
really filtered the readings, and over the years, I would tell people, people with like husband and wives would want to get a reading together, or family members would want to get a reading together, and I wouldn't allow them because I told them, I said, listen, Spirit's going to give me some intimate details for your lives, and this one may not want to know that one to know what's going on, or that they felt this way, or that they did this in the past, or this, that, and the other, whatever.
Oh,
I always separated husbands and wives, and I'd say, okay,
This is
husband
your
can come get the reading, then the wife can come get the reading. Then if y'all want to discuss your readings with each other, you can do that.
You
Nice.
can. So seriously,
What'd John say? Nothing. He said nothing.
yeah, he told me.
saw
I bet
nothing. He said that you were my love of my life.
Yeah.
So
And
the question.
that pain urinating is not from you.
Go ahead, Chris. What do you got?
So I had a question. So you were saying when people first start out, they denounce that, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this. So with them not focusing on that part of the psychic world, do you think they lose that part? They say, oh, well,
Yeah.
I don't practice this, I don't practice that, I only practice this. So by them denouncing that, do you think they actually lose it because they never try it, or they may have a little bit of it, but they never
Exactly
manifest
right.
it?
Exactly right. And it begins to kind of, it's like if you only work out your right bicep, you get this killer Arnold Schwarzenegger right bicep, and then you've got little skinny left arm and little skinny legs and undeveloped, everything else. Yeah, there you go. So it's the same way with spiritual tools and techniques. If you don't work out, all the psychic muscles that are available to you, it does atrophy. It does go away, and it can be harder to get back. It can be harder to develop in time. So, yeah, great question. That's true.
Well, I've found in being an investigator of the strange, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. It's all paranormal. People give it, oh, it's new age. It's
Tons of
whatever.
labels, yeah. But
I just
everything's
put
been
everything
around
into
forever.
paranormal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You always come across people that claim so highly that they're psychic.
Yeah.
And if they're psychic, Stevie Wonder's a NASCAR driver. I mean, they are
Right.
so far
Right.
removed from being
Yep.
psychic. And one of the things that throughout I've always had that feeling. It was confirmed, and then I addressed it.
Mhm.
I knew things about people well in advance. I knew all
Right.
these things were
Right.
happening long before I knew. I call it remote viewing. The psychic for our group, Cindy, she's like from Arkansas. You're psychic like me, and I'm like, well, no, I'm remote. Sometimes you want to deny certain things,
Yeah.
but I do know that, and I'm sure it's in your book, that once you start developing this, right, it begets the next.
Oh,
and
sure.
the next,
It can.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely, it can. Yeah. And I want to address what you said there because it's so true. It's like remote viewing is just clairvoyance.
It is, but sometimes for your own initially your ability,
Mhm.
you don't want to put yourself in that box right here.
Right. Right. But what we
Because-
need to understand is all these labels that we give everything, like every few years a new label comes along. And it's like, we have to update things, we have to fancify things. And if you go back hundreds of years, go back thousands of years, all these exact same techniques that we proclaim to be so new and so new age and so different and all this and all that, they've always existed. They've always been there. We just put a different label on them and call them by something else. Channeling, that's spirit mediumship. You're a medium, same thing. Nothing different there.
Yeah.
So all of these things have always existed, but people get this ego thing and they think, okay, well, if I call it this, I'm cooler and I'm more this and I'm more that, and they attract their little following, and then things fall apart, and then the next one comes along, and we go through these cycles periodically.
Isn't that?
Have you
Yeah,
ever, have you
No, go ahead, guys.
have you ever
So-
thought about maybe they do that to attract new people that would say, well, I'd never go to a psychic, but if you'd be like, hey, look, I can channel information to you. Well, maybe that sounds a little bit better to some people than, oh, well, he's a medium, he's a psychic,
Right,
he's this, he's that. So if you'd be like, I can channel information to you, they'd be like, okay, well, maybe I can go see the channeling guy. And then somebody be like, well,
for some people, it does make it more palatable. But I think for the most part, it's an ego thing, because when you're stating that you're a this, and this is new, and this is better, then you're putting everything else down and you're raising yourself up to this level of, look at me, I've discovered more, I know more, I can teach you more, I can show you more. No, you can't, because all this stuff has been around forever today, and it's the same damn thing, but you're just charging $1,000 for it, for a seminar that teaches the exact same thing that people have known for a bajillion years. I can take you back through, I can take every modern technique that there is, and I can go back 40, 50 years and pull books off the shelves in a library that will show you those exact things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I was doing the remote viewing end of it, which I know it's part of psychic, is I never wanted to come across, and this is Craig, get the cards out. I don't want to be a Miss Cleo,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't want to come across as a fraud.
Right.
But
Right.
I know once.
And there you go.
Really, yeah, there she calling me now. But I know that.
And even the Jamaican accent was fake.
Yeah. I don't. I'm more than just doing RV.
Right.
I know what I have, and I know my abilities, and it's.
Then I have the traditional.
It's exactly what you're saying, and I had to learn the hard way.
Well, you know, the problem is we do have so many phonies and so many frauds and so many fakes, and you know, not only the psychic realm, the paranormal realm, but even the religious realm is rife with frauds and phonies and fakes, which I discovered a long time ago.
Yep.
And I think it affects all of us because we're all lumped together. And so I think that one of the reasons that some of the people, like you mentioned, you know, let's change the name of this, make it a little more respectable. I think that's what Stanford Research Institute did. I think that's what a lot of the other paranormal research institutes have done to try and give it a little more of a scientific stamp. And that's backfired. It's instead of it helping, it's actually backfired because people will make fun of the science and say that it's not a true science or that they've been tricked or this, that, and the other. I always tell people, I'll say, look, anything can be fake, but that doesn't mean that the real doesn't exist.
Yeah, M.A. Allen, he just had a question here, you know, kind of a statement too. It's that when you have the people like psychics and so that they take out a tarot deck and they just basically use the book and the information on the back of the card.
Exactly.
And that's how they give you a reading.
Yeah.
Now, is that kind of an indicator of somebody that most likely doesn't really have like a true ability in that area?
That's a newbie or somebody that doesn't have a gift, because it's like anything else. You study something to get the basics of it, and then you progress from there and you learn from there and you evolve from there. So I tell people, and I've got a chapter on beginning to learn the tarot in my book. And I tell people, I say, okay, you get a deck, you get a book that has good explanations that you like, and you study the heck out of that thing. And then at some point, you're going to progress from there and you're going to realize, okay, the book says this card means this, but in the reading I'm giving this person to me, this card feels like something diametrically opposed to the book interpretation. And that's when you know that you're making progress, that you're really connecting with the other side, that you're really connecting with your intuition. And then that begins the true learning process, and you go on from there.
Good answer.
They have these cards. I got this for a couple of people, and it's the actual tarot card, but they have the meaning of the cards,
right?
Whether it's upright or inverse.
Or reversed, yeah. Right.
So you can learn by using a deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you, like, you know, it so you understand. And
Right.
after repeated use, you can start reading. But
Right.
what part of the people actually, I know some people that never studied the tarot,
Yeah.
just know what's going to happen based on what's coming out,
Right.
which is really weird. They just, I guess are they just picking up on the spread? Are they picking up on the imagery coming at them that will answer the question? They're pretty good with it.
Well, what they're doing is they're interacting directly with the other side and getting that information directly from the other side. There's many mechanisms that we can use to do that. We can use tarot cards, we can use crystal balls, we can use pendulums, we can use dowsing rods, we can use Ouija boards, on and on and on. But the mechanism is all the same. The ideal thing is when you get to the point that you don't need any of the tools. The tools are useful to begin with, to help you, to train you, and to help you start. Most people need something physical, or most people need something they can connect with. It's rather nebulous if somebody's wanting to start and they have no idea, and you tell them sit down with nothing. No cards, no dowsing rods, no pendulum, just sit there and receive this information from spirit. Well, how do I do that? So it's easier for people to start with something because there's that physical and tactile response to it. Like if you're using a pendulum, the pendulum begins to move on its own. You say, wow, this is really happening. There's really something going on there. And then you discover you can take that pendulum and you can douse for objects in the house that somebody's hidden and you can find them. You get to that point. You say, okay, there's really something there.
Right.
For some people, that's as far as they get, and that's fine. If it works for you, if it's consistent, if it's accurate, if it's good, wonderful. But the goal, the ultimate goal, if you have the capability to advance beyond that, that's the ultimate goal, is to advance to the point that you don't need the tarot cards or the pendulum or the dowsing rods or whatever. Now, I've been at that station in life for decades, and I still use cards. I still use this. I still use that. I still use some things. But if I were to go out on a paranormal investigation, which I've done a bajillion times, I don't take an EVP recorder. I don't take a REM pod. I don't take anything else. I take the most technologically advanced and the most sensitive psychic implement there is, and that's myself. Yep. And I make direct communication with the energies that are there, with the spirits that are there, with the deceased people that are there, and I hold real-time two-way communications with them without the need of any devices. But that's something that I discovered that I could do a long time ago and that I've trained, and I brought myself to that point. And it's proven that I can do that because in the paranormal investigations I've done, we've been able to validate 99% of the information that's come through as being accurate.
Have you had a chance to use one of Steve Huff's boxes?
Oh, the spirit boxes?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't used his particular box, but I have used ghost boxes and, gotten some EVP and things. But it's really funny. I don't need that because for all of our technology, EVP is still so frustrating because with the best equipment we've got, you still only get a few words, maybe a short phrase. A lot of times it's garbled and you really have to work on it and put it in the software and get rid of the noise and amplify the voice and do this to hear it. I don't need that because I hold direct conversations with these spirits. So the interesting thing for me about EVP, my TV producer, when I shot the TV pilot for the History Channel, we subsequently became very good friends, remain so to this day. And we were working on some other projects together. And he said, get some EVP. And I said, why? I said, that's a regression for me because if I'm out trying to get EVP, I may record 20, 30-second sessions and get 2 words. And I said, I can go to that same spot and communicate directly with the spirits and have real-time conversations, two-way conversations in my head that most of the time we can validate what I'm receiving. And so this is a regression. He said, yeah, but if we've got you on a TV show and you're doing that, people can't relate to that. But if you hold up the recorder and it goes, Uncle Joe, then they go, oh, wow, did you hear that? Wow, there must be Uncle Joe must be there. There must be a ghost there.
Joe's
like,
here.
Well, that's the
Okay,
part.
I get it. All
Yeah,
right.
that's the part I love, especially like when you have somebody like yourself that's having these conversations. You knew this stuff, and then you have like another party that's been doing the research on these things, and then when you come together and you realize
Mhm.
it's you can tell that somebody isn't feeding these things. You're going through here,
Right.
and when somebody encounters that, you're like, yeah, it's like then you can see in real time. It's like, okay, this person might actually have something going on because they know
Exactly.
details
Exactly.
that one are not in the historical record.
Yeah.
They're telling you stuff like, they're telling them where to look, what is to do. I mean, you're literally talking to the cowboy that used to be at that saloon, at that
Right.
poker table,
Right.
doing these things, and a detail that basically the only person that knew it was the 85-year-old historian. That's this thing. It's like very little. It's not on any pamphlet that somebody would have
Right.
picked up in the production meeting.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
how you picked up on that and this information, you're like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. And when they tell you, it's like, yeah, I lost on this hand, and that's when he shot me, type thing. You're like, this is pretty cool information that came out. And I'm like,
Right.
that's not something that's just somebody just made up.
Right. Right.
That's the stuff that's actually pretty cool. And that's the stuff that even as a skeptic, you're like, I can't explain this. And that's
Yeah.
when you start feeling that feeling. You're like, okay, this is pretty cool because there's something here. And then that's the part I love out
That's
of this whole
the
phenomenon.
fun. One of the fun experiences I had when we were doing the Atlas Media and the History Channel contacted me to shoot a TV pilot for the History Channel, and it was supposed to be an ongoing series, and unfortunately, it didn't go to series, and the pilot didn't even air, unfortunately. But we just captured such phenomenal stuff. We captured paranormal manifestations on film, but talking about picking up things that people aren't aware of. When we went in Ford's Theater, there's a museum underneath, and some of the things are the actual items, some of the things are reproductions. And the one of the things I had was the door into the presidential booth. And I was reading this placard, and it said that Booth had drilled the hole in the door so he could look in and see where Lincoln was sitting, so he could burst through and shoot him. And I looked at that and I said, no, Booth did not drill this hole. I said, this hole was drilled by someone that worked in the theater that wouldn't arouse suspicion by drilling the hole, but Booth did not drill this hole. And sure enough, after we got through with the shooting the pilot, we had access to every Lincoln expert on the planet. The networks had access to every researcher on the planet. And sure enough, we found out that the hole was drilled by a worker in the theater and not by Booth. So it was really awesome to discover things like that weren't part of accepted history, and then prove that in fact that they were. So it was a really interesting thing.
Just for the record, before we even came on, Chris was talking about something or showing something or doing something, and I mentioned, "Are you going to a theater later?"
Yeah,
Because of the whatever.
right,
And where are we right now? We were talking about Lincoln. Prior to
exactly.
this,
And the
talking
Booth
about Lincoln.
assassination, yeah.
That's psychic ability right there.
Yeah,
Right there in the
synchronicity. There you
Yes,
Foreshadowed.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, King, real quick, you had a quick question.
That's it.
Do you know if you can improve your luck?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's one of the things I discuss in the new book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. There are ways to improve luck. And interestingly, at some point,
Don't get
the
married.
other side seems to detour that or kind of put a damper on it.
Ooh.
Because like at Stanford Research Institute, where they had, Puthoff and Targ and all these guys, Geller was there, they started remote viewing the stock market. And they made, I think, something like $100,000, something like that. And then by their own admission, at some point, it began to peter out. And my theory is that the other side says, okay, you've had your fun with this, but that's not the ultimate goal and aim and maximum utilization of this gift. Let's see if we can't do something for humanity with this gift. Let's see if we can't heal. Let's see if we can't find better ways to bring world peace. Let's see if we can't find better ways of communication with the other side. So it's been my experience over the years that the other side will grant you a little leeway every now and then, but then they'll try and guide you back to what's really important and what really needs to be focused
Does
on.
that tie in kind of like with Edgar Casey, you know, like how he would get violently ill if he ever did something that was like self-serving?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's like, you know, I've told people over the years, and I've told my wife, and I tell everybody, I said, look, you know, I haven't been the ideal perfect person in my life. I've made my mistakes just like everybody else. I've been a jerk like everybody else, and so on and so forth. But I can honestly say with my psychic gift, I have never misled anybody, never lied to anybody, never taken advantage of anybody. And there's two reasons for that. One is I have a very strong moral compass from when I was a kid. And so I've always followed that moral compass. The other reason is I know my guys on the other side. I know them intimately. And I know that if I were ever to screw up and do anything like that, man, they would hang me out to dry in a heartbeat, and it would be some hard repercussions that I would be facing. So I don't do that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, because that's one of those. Because I think most people, it's like whenever you see like psychics, like the obligatory joke, what's the lottery numbers?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
I ask that all the time.
And man, don't you think? Let me see if I can get this camera.
And there's a psychic in this chat right now that I asked this personally. I asked what the lottery numbers are and why my why my guardian angels drink. She did the same thing. She just laughed at me.
I've had people ask me that over the years. If you're psychic, why haven't you won the lottery? My answer is, don't you think I have tried? And I have. I've had. There was a buddy of mine that was psychic. We used to sit there and put our heads together and try and get the numbers, and it was like the other side's like,
damn it, we were
nope,
so off.
Nope, nope.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like, what are the line? All of a sudden everything just goes fuzzy.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, not for you, not today,
not today.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I'm one of those people. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Craig.
No,
that if you have a gift or an ability, some people are like, well, you know, you should be doing it for free, and you know, this is a gift. Why don't you give me a free reading? Well, you know what? My time. This is my employment. This is what I do.
That's it.
And I'm allowed
I don't
to
charge for the gift. I charge for my time.
Right.
And the reason that I charge for my time is I can go to the grocery store, push my basket up to the checkout thing, and the manager of the store can be standing there, and I can get to talking with him and the checkout clerk, and I can say, I'm John Russell. I'm an internationally known psychic. I've read for people in 40 countries. My clients over the years have given me an 80 to 90% accuracy rating. I predicted both economic crashes. I've successfully predicted every presidential election with 100% accuracy since Kennedy, and blah, 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 blah. And he's going to go, wow, that's frigging amazing. That's frigging awesome. Oh, your groceries are rung up. That's 150.23. So it's like nobody cares. I still got to pay the grocery bill.
Pay.
I still got to put gas in the car. I still got to pay the light bill. Nobody cares that I'm psychic. It's like, hey, buddy, your light bill is due, you know?
Exactly. But you know, I mean, like there are people, someone whose message is up right now. She does some great work and she charges, but she doesn't charge. And I know for my own personal thing, I have done readings. And I do them. I don't publicly state, you know, promote it.
Right.
But if I'm not happy with something and I don't feel like I'm on something, I'll tell them, no, don't bother. I'll give me another week. Let me just go regroup.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Right.
You come across sometimes when you have done that where you're like, whoa, I'm not
Never.
feeling it.
No, never.
Okay.
Never.
No. I'm just wondering because sometimes it does, you know, it happens to me. I'm not you and I'm not as versed, and I'm a newbie on this one.
Yeah,
I'm technically a baby.
No, I've never experienced that, and it's always, there's never been a person that I couldn't read. There's never been a situation that I couldn't read. never been a situation where I didn't get accurate information for them. There have been cases they didn't want to hear it, you know, because
Raise
there's a
your
lot
hand
of
if you don't want to hear it. No,
yeah, there's a lot of people that
plenty of
psychic
people that
off,
don't.
and they'll go to one psychic after another until they tell them what they want to hear.
That's
And that's
terrible.
not what I will do. The other side is going to give me the truth for your life and accurate predictions for you. And I'm going to give them to you unfiltered as they give them to me. And I'm going to explain to you then how to use that information to move your life forward in positive ways. And that's it. And then it's up to you to take it and run with it.
So, can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
No, I was looking at Craig right now. I'm looking that way. I'm looking diagonal at the other square. So I have had situations where I've gotten information. I wasn't doing a reading. Sometimes these just information pops up. I call them call it visions, call it whatever it is. It just pops in your mind's eye. All this stuff plays out, and I'm like, I've got to tell them. And I've gotten literally now the new thing is I will get an answer. So can I tell them? Yes, I'll hear a yes, like it's coming out of nowhere, or no. I said, well, can I tell details? Yes. And then I have to pick it and choose.
Right.
And if it's something that's been significant, I've gotten to the point where I said, I don't care what you're saying. I'm telling these person or this individual. And when I've gone to do it, things just go wrong. The faucet will break. I'll be called out of it. It's like it's been preventing, if they don't want you to tell, from what I understand, this is why when I say things, I have some information for you that I'm allowed to give you.
Right.
Some people are like, well, how can you be allowed to give me only a little bit? I'm like, it's just the way it works.
I don't know. They're not telling me why.
Phone will hang up.
It's the way it works. And, we're, number one, psychics aren't God. We don't know everything. We're not allowed to access all knowledge that there is. And there are strange things that happen that we can't figure out a reason for. An example, I had a very good client that I had for a number of years. And the other side has told me many times when people were going to die. And as I gained experience and as I gained knowledge and as I gained wisdom, as I gained expertise, the other side would speak to me and say, tell this person, your dad hasn't got long, you need to buy a ticket and go see him. And then they would say, okay, this person you got a hint at, hey, you seen your mom lately? Well, no, we haven't been to visit. Well, maybe you better go visit. Oh, is there something wrong?
Right. Yeah.
You might. So it depends on the person, but the other side would specifically and accurately tell me when people were going to die. Now, with that, I have this client that's been a good client for years and years and years. And in the very last reading, I didn't know it was going to be the last reading. And in the very last reading I gave her, the other side just kept telling me over and over and over, tell her, enjoy everything that she loves this month. Do it repeatedly. And they kept stressing that to me so much that I repeated it 4 or 5 times in the reading. And I was like, man, you love the movies. Go to the movies 3, 4, 5 times this month. Go out to eat as much as you can. If you like theater, go to the theater as much as you can this month. Do all the things that you love and do them repeatedly this month. Do them in excess. Just give yourself all the enjoyment you can this month. And I said, I don't know why the other side's telling me that for you, but that's what they're telling me. And she had been a client long enough. I'd been accurate enough for her that she knew she needed to pay attention. She's like, okay.
Right.
So after that, I got a call. And they said, this is so-and-so's parents. Who are you? I said, I was her psychic. I was her spiritual advisor. I said, why? And she said, well, she died. And we were just calling numbers that she had and trying to, pick up loose ends, who was who, and let people know and this, that, and the other. Now, the other side had told me many, many times that people were going to die and told me how to present that news to people in such a way to prepare them for it and so that they could, make the final arrangements or have that last little bit of time together in a meaningful way and so on and so forth. Why did they not tell me that she was going to die? Because it was a shock when they called me. And instead, all they told me was just tell her, say, man, this month, do everything you can, do everything you enjoy. And it was in that month that she died at the end of that month.
Well,
So
I guess,
why?
I mean,
We
yeah.
don't know all the reasons why. God, we wish we did. We wish we knew all the reasons. We wish we had this better understanding, this deeper understanding, but we don't. And sometimes the other side doesn't allow us to be privy to that. Sometimes it's just, okay, this is the way that the game is played.
I mean, and they kind of did give you, now that you had that experience, now you have an idea. If someone says, well, if you eat you like ice cream, go ice cream and go out a little bit more this month. If you start hearing that, you're like, oh crap, you're gonna die.
No,
that's the only thing.
You're gonna die, lady.
That was the only time. And there's plenty of other times that the other side tells me to tell people, hey, you need to go out and enjoy yourself and do some things, simply because they're overworked, they're overstressed, they're overtired, they hadn't had a vacation in 5 years. And so that's part of the understanding of being a professional psychic, is when you've reached the point that you understand all those variances and all those nuances and what each thing means. So it's not, that was the only time that it's ever actually been. And all the years that I've done readings, that's the only time.
That's the only thing I fear about a psychic is, like, I mean, I talk to psychics. I have a couple advisors, but it's just that if you go reach out to somebody else and they say, oh, well, you're going to die soon. Dude, I don't want to hear that. Like, I mean, I know it might be your person's place to tell me that, but can you at least tell me, how do you see me dying so I can stay away from that? Well, you're going to die in a car on Thursday, bitch, I'll walk everywhere.
You're right. Right.
I'll find another way. Hey, you're going to die. A plane's going to fall out of the sky. Well, I'll stay inside.
There's been a few times that I've been led to tell people, don't take this flight, or don't drive here, don't take this road, so on and so forth. Usually the only times that I've been told that people were going to face death was when it was an older person and their time was coming, or when it was somebody that was very ill and the illness was progressing more rapidly than people counted on, and the other side needed them to have that information. So as a general rule, I think that's one of the reasons that people are always scared to go to psychic. Oh, they're going to tell me something I don't want to hear. And, that's not what a good reading is. A good reading is going to acknowledge whatever realities are in your life. Yes. But I always tell people, I say, look, if I see something negative coming in your future, I'm going to find ways, see if I can find ways. The other side will show me ways to either minimize it or avoid it entirely.
Okay.
And like, if you marry this person, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Don't do it. Okay. So you can avoid that. If it's something I see that is unavoidable, it's a life lesson that's coming or whatever, then let's minimize it. Let's see what we can learn from it. Let's see how to come out from the other side and go on with a better life from there. So none of the gloom and doom stuff. And I hate psychics that willy-nilly throw out this gloom and doom stuff. I remember I used to do a lot of psychic fairs when I was younger. And I was sitting there one day at a table at a very, very large psychic fair, and I had my tarot cards spread out in front of me. And this lady walked by, and she literally shivered. She went, "Oh, tarot cards!" And she almost ran away from my table. I said, "Hey, come back here, come back here, come back here." And she came over and I said, "What in God's name was that all about?" And she said, "Oh my God," she said, "years ago, my husband and I went to this old gypsy woman," she said she was, "and she read the tarot cards for us. And she saw and predicted all of these horrible, frightening things and this, that, and the other." And I stopped her and I said, "How many of those happened?" She said, "What?" I said, "How many of those came true?" And she sat there for a minute and she thought, and she said, "Oh my God, none of them." And I said, "You've been living in fear of this device, these cards, for all these years, and you've been living in this, fear of psychics and all this type of thing. None of it ever happened. None of it ever came true." And I said, and then she sat down with me and I gave her a really good reading, and she was like, oh, wow. It was like a night and day thing. So, you know, I hate psychics that prey on people like that. And there's a ton of them out there. There's a lot of frauds, phonies, fakes. That's one of the things that I've had to combat and rescue people from over the years. There are people that I have known that have spent $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 with these phony psychics. And the thing that will get them the most is simple sleight of hand magic. I have loved magic since I was a kid, and I used to study magic. And so these psychics, these phony psychics, will do things like, you know, they'll have a bowl of eggs there on the table, and they'll say, pick an egg, any egg out of this bowl. And when I crack this open, yeah, you can read for yourself. You just don't want to hear what they're telling you. You can crack this egg open, and when you do, we're going to see the health of your spiritual life and what's going on in your life by what this egg looks like. So if I crack the egg open and a normal yolk comes out, everything's dandy. But if there's anything gnarly or weird in here, we'll know that you're under a curse or things are going wrong in your life and whatever. So you can truly pick any egg in that bowl. It's a free choice. And then once they get it and they crack it open into this bowl, there's going to be some horrible fuzzy filth and mold and black crap and junk in this thing. You go, oh my God, look at this. You're cursed. The evil spirits are around. Oh crap. What do I do now? And it's simple sleight of hand magic. That's all it is. But that's one of the ways that they hook you.
Give me another $10,000. We got you.
Yeah. And then from then on, it's like, well, look, the money's not for me. The money's for the spirits. You know, and I've got to make a feast for the spirits, and they need food and they need booze and they need this, and they're going to absorb the energy from that, and they're going to be enticed to come and help you then to break all these evil spells and all this other thing.
Televangelist.
And on
Sorry.
and on and on. And after you spend $5,000, you know,
right,
they milk you all they can, then they go on to something else. So,
but is that true for a certain aspect? Do you have to set a table? Do you have to set candles?
No, you don't have to do nothing. You can sit there naked with not a dime to your name and go, spirits, I need some guidance and I need some help. And shut your mouth and listen, and they're going to come to you and they're going to give that guidance and help. I wanted to talk to Katie real quick about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wanted him to address Katie's question.
Over the years, I've always been able to read for myself. And I always tell psychics that say they can't read for themselves, or you're second guessing about yourself. You can read for others, but not for yourself. 99.9% of the time, that's because you don't want to hear what they're telling you. We have our own ambitions and our egos and our goals and the way that we want things to go, the way we want people to be and act, the way we want ourselves to be and act, and the other side may be telling you, And when we go to the other side for input and guidance for ourselves, we have to be willing to accept what they're going to tell us, even when the answer is no, even when it goes against the grain, even when it's not what we want to hear, even when it's not what we were hoping the other person was going to be. I'll give you an example from my own life. I had wanted a long time ago, before I had done so much radio. I've been on radio and podcasts cumulatively for over 18 years now. So done a ton of radio, done a ton of podcasts. But before all that, when I was just getting started doing radio, I wanted to get a wider message out there to people, because I saw all these hokey shows on TV with these phony ghost hunters and stuff. And I said, this is not real life. This is not what it's really like. I need to get this message out there to people. And I began to pray to my guys on the other side. And I said, guys, we've got to do something. We've got to get me on a show, man, where we can get this message out there. So my wife and I had gone on a cruise. We came back from the cruise. I opened up my email, and lo and behold, there used to be a TV magazine show, 48 Hours or night. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, the reporter on there, his name was either David or John Hockenberry. He was a guy in a wheelchair. And he was on this news magazine show that came on like 9 p.m. at night, whatever it was. So in my email, is an email from Hockenberry. And he's like, I want to interview you for like 48 hours, whatever it was. And I was like, oh my God, here it is. This is it. Excuse me. And I yelled at my wife. And I said, hon, come in here. Look at this. Look at this. She goes, what? I said, look at this email. She's like, oh my God. And so we're all excited and we're all stoked and everything. I'm going to be on nationwide TV, being interviewed as a psychic, being able to tell people what it's really like, what you really need to look for, what it's really like to interact with the other side. And we get down to the bottom of the email, and there was a deadline for the interview, and we were 3 days too late to make it. And I said to my guys, I said, this is what I've been asking for, and you dangle this thing in front of me, drop it in front of me, and then I'm 3 days too late to make it?
Well, maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
Said, why? And all they would say is, just wait. You're going to be so glad you missed this. And I was like, well, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'm arguing with my guys. And I'm saying, no. This is what I've been wanting, man. This is nationwide exposure. This is a chance to set the record straight. And the only thing in regards to that, they would tell me, just wait. You're going to be so glad you missed this. I said, man, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. So I argued with them for a few weeks. And a few weeks later, on a Saturday afternoon, I'm watching TV and I'm flipping through the channels, and there's a replay of the primetime 48 hour, whatever it was, the interview with Hockenberry, and guess who he's got on there? John Edward. So I immediately launch into my guys, and I'm like, guys, John Edward's got a New York Times bestseller. He's got his own TV show. He doesn't need this interview. I needed this interview. And they said, just wait. You're going to be so glad you didn't get this. I was like, this makes no sense, whatever. So I turned the volume up. Hockenberry does everything in his power to make Edward look like the biggest fraud, phony, con artist, and fool there ever was on the planet. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been my introduction to TV and to the viewing public. Yep. And the guys on the other side went, told you was going to be glad you missed it. We have to understand that our guides on the other side can see a lot further down the road than we can.
Right.
And there are times they may give us the information as to why you shouldn't be involved in something, or they may not and just say, hey, don't do this. And the reason may come later, may come not at all. Past life theory, I haven't found anything I can hang my hat on. I've studied it. I'm aware of all the compelling things. Like the little kid, he's 5 years old, and I used to be Joe Blow, and I lived in Indiana, and blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, there was a Joe Blow that lived in Indiana and whatever. And most of those instances, as the kid ages, all of that fades away and goes away. And my question is, maybe this kid's not Joe Blow reincarnated. Maybe this kid's just like super psychic, as a lot of us are when we're young. And he's just all of a sudden picking up on this random information, doesn't realize that it's random information, and internalizes it. Because when we're kids, when we're young, we don't know how to accurately analyze things and interpret things. We don't understand what we're internalizing and thinking. That I sit there when I was a young kid, I was sitting on the steps outside crying. I was about 4 years old. And my grandmother came out, what are you crying about? What's wrong with you? And I was looking up at the moon. I said, I want to go back home. She said, what are you talking about? I said, that's my home. I want to go back home. So as young kids, we can misinterpret all kinds of things. We can internalize all manner of things, but it doesn't mean they're true.
Well, my son did something like that.
Yeah.
When he was a lot younger, we were at my dad's house, and there's a old picture of a great grandfather. Just one of those that almost kind of looks like those painting style like photographs.
Right.
And he was sitting there, and this, I want to say he was like 3 or 4, and he goes, "That's my grandson." And we're like, "Grandson?" He's like, "Yeah, that's my grandson." And so I'm wondering if it's something like that, like he's picking up on something like that, because obviously there's, he's 3 or 4 years old. There's not,
right.
It shouldn't happen, but
and again, you have to, kids don't know nothing. We assign intelligence to kids. Kids don't know squat. You know, we're running around when we're 9, 10 years old looking for our Winky still and trying to figure out what to do with it. Kids don't know a damn thing, you know, and we as adults assign kids all this intelligence and value and insight that they don't have. That comes through life experience, and that comes through learning. And there's all these things. When you're younger, you're more receptive, you're more empathic, you're more psychic, you're more apt to be tuned into things, but you don't know how to interpret accurately and correctly all of these things that are coming into you. And so what reference do you have? Well, the books mom and dad's read to me, the TV shows I've seen, the movies I've watched, the fantasies my friends and I have concocted. And so when that information comes in, those are the filters that you try and interpret and make that information useful by.
So, so I have a question that, back to what you were saying a little bit earlier, that I've had like 5 or 6 people tell me, hey, look, you have a calling, whether it be psychics, pastors, babalaos. I've had people say, okay, 5 or 6 people say you have a calling, but nobody can dabble into what it is. And I've been trying to figure it out. And I'm not
I nailed you the second you showed up on screen, and I was going to tell you that you do have a calling, and you've got to go a lot deeper into your psychic gift and in the psychic realm. And I think grab my book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Ability. Start with that. Start working through that. And that's going to be one of the things that leads you in this direction, because you do have this gift, you do have this calling, and you have this ability to tap into something much more deeply than you ever have before and than you're doing now. But it's going to take some work, going to take some training, going to take some experience to do that. And I'd recommend my book as a good guide to start with to do that. And in addition to that, you don't need a church, you don't need a group, you don't need anything. You need to go and sit and talk to the other side every day and go, okay, here I am. I know I'm supposed to be learning. I know I'm supposed to be progressing. What do you want me to do today? What do you want me to learn today? What do you want me to experience today? And then you have to make, this is something people just don't get. We rattle and we rattle and we rattle, and we pray and we affirm, and we make affirmations, and we do this, and we cast spells, and we blah, 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 and we never shut the F up and listen. And it's like, how is the other side going to get through to us if we don't shut our mouths? And so I tell everybody, I said, look, make your affirmations, make your prayers, make your requests, and then shut up. Get quiet. Put the phone down, turn the phone off, turn the music off, turn the TV off, get quiet. Sit in the silence and listen. And then the other side is going to begin to speak to you. May come through a vision, may come that night in a dream while you're asleep, may come through an intuition, through some other type of guidance, may come through something a friend says that's like, wow, where did that come from? That's the answer I've been looking for. That's the direction I need to go in. But you're not going to hear it until you sit down and get quiet. And it's not enough to go, Spirit, lead me today, guide me today. I need your help. I need your guidance. I need your input. I need to know what to do. And then head out the door on your phone, and then getting in the car, listening to the music and going, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to cut it. What you do is you make the request, and then you sit and devote some time in the silence to get quiet and wait for that response and for that answer to come. And that's how you're going to make your spiritual progress. You don't need a church or a group or anything else to do it. That's how you do it. But that's how you start. And Chris, that's what you're supposed to do. And I saw that as clear as a bell. As soon as you came on screen tonight, I was like, yep, there it is. So there's your answer. And
there you go.
That's the best.
A lot of reflection.
That's the best stab that's the best one I've had. And nobody would be like, well, I can't. I mean, is it on the real high rim? The reason why they don't know why it is, but I've had like so many people after I talked about it in many shows, and people are like, well, I don't know. I just know that you have that, and I see it, but I can't.
That's how to do it. That's how to start with it, and that's how to get going. It's as simple as that, and it's as hard as that. Because
buy the book.
Buy the book. Do what
buy the book. Start reading.
And the thing of it is, look, this is hard. This is difficult because. Thank you. If you want to bench press 100 pounds and you go to the gym and all you can bench press is 40 pounds, that's all you can get up. man, you go back to the gym, you start working, you get a trainer, and then you can bench press 50, 60 pounds. You keep going. Then you can bench press 70, 80 pounds. And you keep going. You've been at the gym 9 months. Bam, that 100 pounds goes up finally. But if you go to the gym for a week or two, and then you lay off for a week or 2 or 3, you go back, you can't even get that 40 pounds up anymore. It's like, oh man, oh geez, where'd this come from? And it's the exact same way with spiritual growth. You have to make the time for it. You have to make the dedication, the discipline for it. You have to sacrifice for it. That means no cell phone, no TV, no music, no conversation, no noise, sitting in the silence, getting that direction. And it takes that discipline. It takes dedicating yourself to that to move forward. And it's hard for people to do because you get up, okay, now I'm going to sit 15 minutes, I'm going to meditate. And your wife yells at you from the other room, honey, the hot water heater just busted. Water's all over the floor. Okay, there goes my meditation. And on and on and on. So it's a struggle. It's difficult. And you have to find ways to carve out that time. But if something is important to us, we make time for it. Absolutely. I don't care how busy we are, how tired we are, how harried we are. If it's important to us, we make time for it.
Use your car as a place. It really, when you're traveling, your motorcycle, your car, you're there. They know you're traveling. Shut the phone off. Take 5 minutes. And the next, do it for a week. Take 10 minutes. Do it for a week.
Exactly.
Let it down and get into that space.
That's right. Or
It'll start happening.
Find a way, when you get up 15 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier in the morning, and use that time to connect. When you come in from work, instead of, what would cause a sudden blockage during meditation? There can be a number of things. I think one thing, stress, worry, fear, uncertainty in our own lives. And we have to understand that we live in this space, like in 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. We live in this space with tools and techniques that help you to manifest things, achieve things, control things, get things moving in a certain direction. And we're caught in between that and the higher intelligences on the other side that control this planet and run this planet. And these intelligences have their own agendas and their own knowledge and their own power and their ways that things need to go. So we have to, I always tell people, when you ask for these things, you also have to be willing to accept the no answer.
Oh my God.
It's like me with the show. It was like, you don't get this one,
But
and so
it did pan out, right? It did work out in your favor.
Yeah, it did. It did work out. I got to shoot the TV pilot for the History Channel and meet, who has become a very good friend of mine. And even though the pilot didn't air, we captured phenomenal things, made a lot of people into believers, and did some good for people. And then, like I say, I got this marvelous friendship relationship with my producer that carries forward to this day. We became fast friends and enjoy each other.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so, there's all these things that come out of things, and you have to be able to take your lumps and bruises with things, because I don't care what techniques you use or practice or what you do. Sometimes the answer is going to be no. Sometimes the answer is going to be a detour. Sometimes the answer is going to be wait. So and that's why I hate all these people, all these jerks that have these courses for sale. $300, $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000. Man, you do this, you're going to manifest anything you want. You're going to be a millionaire. You're going to be healthy. You're going to, no. It would be great if life worked that way, but it doesn't, my friend. These people are ripping you off, taking your money, and the only person getting rich is them.
Right.
Because they got your bucks in their pocket now.
Come on, Craig, ask the question.
Huh?
You want an answer to a question, Craig? Just go ask it.
Yeah, Craig's debating.
You play Mr. Serial, auto blah blah. Enough with that bull and just ask the damn question.
Yeah.
No,
thank
Fling
you.
It.
Nice. Yeah, it's no. I'm just really fast. I'm just it's one of those things. I don't really have much to add. It's just one of those. This is one of those episodes. Where I'm just
and time's flown by. He's
no. I just I mean, because
Come
the
on,
one thing
you.
is like, look at the time. Like the one thing I really wanted to get to is like the excerpt for the end of the
Oh, we
into
got
that book.
time. We got time.
Yeah,
We'll keep
the
trucking.
crying
Yeah,
tree.
keep going.
Okay. You'll get to the crying tree. Just ask the question. Come on. Someone in that household must have a damn question, Greg. Come on. You have one.
Thinking. He's
I
got
do. I'm
one.
just trying to think how to phrase it.
Spit it
Chris,
out.
you've known him longer. What kind of question would we ask? Like how many lightsabers is he going to get for Christmas?
No, I think we'll keep it even like business related here. It just like for the show.
Related.
For the show here, it's one of those things. It's always been it's like, is the direction that we've been going in the show? Does it feel like we're going the right way? I mean, because there's times like where we've rebranded a little bit. Like we used to do like MMA, we used to do sports thing, and then we kind of went to where we did this more times. Because there's times like where it's frustrating. You look at it, and you're like, I don't feel like we're putting out a bad product.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we not, what's stopping us from getting to that next step? Because you
gotta have a focus, and that focus has to be one thing. And if you're going to focus on the paranormal realm, and if you're going to focus on putting the best show out there that you possibly can about the paranormal realm, that's what you have to focus on. And you don't go strictly for the entertainment value. You go for the quality of the information that your guests can present. And you delve as deeply as you can into these strange realms. And my God, they are strange, but they are real. And you find people that are credible in those realms, regardless of what it is. And then you probe as deeply into that as you possibly can. And that's what your audience is going to want to listen to.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to.
Because I've seen people that tried to flop back and forth between I'm going to interview somebody that's a psychic, and then I'm going to interview a sports star, and then I'm going to interview a business person, and then I'm going to interview a ufologist. And it's like there's confusion when you do that. Who are you? What are you? Pick your brand and stick with it. And if you're going to explore the paranormal, let that be your brand. Let that be where your focus is, and let that be what you continue with.
Yeah, because that's what's hard, because it's just like I really like the ancient history, that stuff, right? And kind of like the both. It's like, but at the same time, it's just like that's what feels like it's holding us back, is the fact that we're just.
Yeah, you're doing this roller coaster ride, and you got to focus on one thing. You gotta be the brand. You got to focus on one thing, and everything has to gear toward that. And then you have to have all of you together collectively have to agree on. What's our level of professionalism? What do we accept as far as the guests that we get? And you could have somebody that has bona fide credentials, they may still be a nutcase. And you have to say, okay, if we get this bona fide on and they're a nutcase, how do we handle that? Okay, then put the hard questions to them. Ask for the proof, ask for the evidence, ask for whatever. So that's where your niche is. That's where you have to go, and you have to stay with that. And you can't try and buy respectability by veering off into other courses.
Okay, yeah, because Chris will verify this. That's one of the things I told him. It's like when we do this, it's like it's not our job to point out crazy.
Yeah, well, it is.
It's like we do the show. Yeah. I'm going to let the audience determine whether the person's an absolute nut job. I'm not going to tell them.
In that process, when you're interviewing people, that is, in one respect, your responsibility to come up with the questions and say, okay, well, you claim this or you claim that or whatever. Where is that validation? Where is that proof? And ask people for that, and it's like, look, when people ask me for that, I've got EVP, I've got spirit photographs, I've got a bajillion eyewitnesses that have experienced these things with me. I have video evidence on the pilot that we shot. I'm standing there in the pilot. We may have been, the pilot's like, I think a couple of decades old now. We may have been the very first to use a FLIR camera in paranormal investigation. And for people who don't know what that is, forward-looking infrared radiation. And
Yeah, that's cool.
The FLIR camera that we had, it was set on a black and white setting to where black was cold and heat registered as white. So when you looked at a person, they would appear white in the frame of the camera. So they were filming me with a regular camera and with the FLIR camera. And there was an occasion that talking about proof, talking about evidence. We were at the Mudd house, and I said, Mrs. Mudd, this is her. She has appeared. She's come back. She's here talking with me. And I said, she's walking toward me right now. And I said, she just walked through me. I felt her energy go through me, and she came out the other side. And while I was saying that, on the FLIR camera, we got period era footprints of a woman's shoe in black, which indicates cold, walking in real time across the floor towards me and walking through me. And we captured that on the FLIR.
That's awesome.
So, you know, there's these things. If you claim these things, there has to be some proof for these things. And it's like, if you go to my website, you read my clients' testimonials, you know, there's over 80 testimonials on there. There's media testimonials on there from people that have said, you know, wow, yeah, this guy gave me this reading. It was accurate and it worked and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, always look for the bona fides. It's like if somebody tells you, I've got aliens living in my basement and they're giving me this information, so on and so forth. Well, take a camera and let's go see these aliens. And if there's always an excuse that you can't take the camera and go see the aliens, then you can call BS. And you should call BS.
Or if they're illegal aliens, you can still call BS.
That's right.
Depending upon what the aliens tell you, yeah.
Yeah.
One day a star alien.
Now, real quick before we go,
serious meter, wherever you come from, I don't want that crap. It's like,
yeah, M.A. Allen, he had one thing about his dad in comfort care.
Yeah.
Rather not answer that on the air, really.
Okay, so that's one of those things. Alan's like, you know, reach out to him there. Like I said, and that's and then
you can, you know,
and then
reach out.
One. We talked. I apologize, Ron. I forgot to put this up there. You know, do you know much about Staticom?
No, but you know, people have used white noise for a long time to pick up EVP and so on and so forth. So, you know, the problem with all these processes. I talked to somebody. I was on a podcast, and one of the hosts was a professional musician, and I had long said that, you know, when the day comes that we can figure out the frequency that these voices are using to communicate, whether it's in white noise, radio static, whatever it is, ambient noise, whatever the frequency is that somehow integrates with that and enables us to hear that, when we can figure that out, we're going to have real-time two-way communication with the other side. And this guy that was one of the podcast hosts that was a professional musician, he said, John, he said, I can take any piece of music, any sound, any noise, any speech, anything, and I can put it in the software and I can do anything I want to with it. I can isolate it. I can change it. I can manipulate it. I can see the frequency it's on. But he says, when I put the EVP in there, I can hear them, but I can't isolate them and I can't find the frequency that they're on. And I told him, I said, that's our next big advancement. When we can find the frequency that these voices are coming through on, we're going to be able to hold real-time two-way communication with the other side. But that's a long way off. And it goes back to marrying science and the psychic realm, like they were trying to do it at SRI and various other places. The problem that you encounter with that, you've got people like the amazing Randy that were, you know, huge skeptics, and there's still people this day that just have made up their minds in advance that there's nothing to any of it. So when you deal with someone like that as a psychic, you know, when I was young, full of piss and vinegar, I relished that. Yeah, bring it on. Let's get these challenges. Now I'm old, I'm worn out, and I'm tired, and I'm disgruntled, and I'm grumpy, and I don't want nothing to do with any of that nonsense. So when you've been knocked down enough with this stuff, you're leery of the realm of science, you're leery of the skeptics, because most of them go in with these preset mindsets. There's nothing to it. We're going to just disprove this guy. instead of saying, hey, maybe there's something here. Let's see if we can find out something.
I think
By
one
the
of my
same
favorite ones was
token-
that kung fu guy that came. You know, he was wearing the kung fu gear, and he was the psychic that could, you know, he could move the pages with his
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
And
he
you know,
was blowing it with his
so yeah,
breath.
he put the styrofoam pellets down there, and he's just like, I can't. It's, you know,
I
it's
can't,
disrupting the energy field, and so
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this
And
is
so by
awesome.
the same token, though, you've got scientists that encounter people like that that are like, I don't want nothing to do with these nutcases. I don't want nothing to do with these lunatics. So it's difficult getting that marriage of science and the psychic and paranormal realm together to try and make these advancements. And that's what we're going to have to do if we're going to have any real true success. And then even within the scientific community, I was on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory one night, and I got this email from this guy, and we've since become good friends. And he was at Stanford when SRI was developed, and when Targ and Puthoff and Geller and all these guys were out there. And he said the alphabet agencies were throwing money left and right at SRI because guess what? It worked. It was real. And he said he became aware of this this remote viewing experiment. And he told me about it. And I told him that I was a professional photographer. I'm a professional photographer and a professional fine artist, have been since I was young. And he said, oh, well, you'll get this then. He said, you'll understand this. He said, they bring the picture in that the remote viewer drew, and the guy, the target was sitting by a bench by some railroad tracks, and there was like a public area. It was like some trees and things around, whatever. So the remote viewer draws all this correctly. And my friend looks at it and he goes, where's the train? And the alphabet letter guy, alphabet agency guy goes, what train? What do you mean? He says, well, this guy's been sitting there by these train tracks. It's a commuter station. He's been sitting there for a good amount of time as the target for the remote viewer to be able to tune in on him, figure out where he's at, and begin to sketch all this. Where's the train? And he said, I still don't understand what you mean. He said, well, if the remote viewer is seeing this, he's got to see the train go by. Why didn't he draw the train? And he said, let me explain this to you. He said, your remote viewer is a film camera using slow speed film on a slow shutter setting. Now, for people that don't understand what that means, when you learn photography, one of the first lessons that you're given to figure out is you're in New York City in the middle of the day, and you want to take a picture of this building, but you don't want any people in that picture. How do you do that? Well, you put your camera on a tripod, you set a slow shutter speed setting on slow film, and the people just disappear. They just blur out. The building's steady, it doesn't move, so it's solid in the frame and it registers, but the people are moving and they just blur out because the film and the shutter speed setting is too slow to capture them. And so he said, this is your remote viewer. He's a slow film camera with slow film speed on a slow shutter setting. And when the train goes by, it's just a blur. And the guy's like, yeah, I still don't get what you're getting at. And he says, what if there were a way to teach your remote viewer to become a high-speed camera with a high-speed film and a high-speed shutter setting so that when the train goes by, he gets that too? And I was like, oh my God, you blow my mind. I said, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard of. And he said, yeah, but the alphabet agency didn't think so. They said, it doesn't matter. It was a success. We got our picture. And that was the end of it. And it was like, the point was, you could do so much more, you know? So even
there's some black op that started after that day.
Even within science, we have those.
There's some project name that's now researching that.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I've always started doing that stuff is I'm always started with helping people. Give me permission to go help heal.
Right.
And it took me a while to get this, but let's say someone was having a problem. My friend's wife was having a problem with night terrors. So I said, okay, I'm going to go and see what's going on. And they took me to the same place, and I'm staring at the same area. And I start walking around. I'm like, okay, I can't find it. Let me try it again. And I go to the same spot. Then I go to the same spot.
Right.
And after a while, it's like, hey, dumbass, we're taking you to the right place where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And, you know, And then you get, initially when it's a problem like that, I go right to the problem, and now I know it.
Yeah.
But there's something cool because I can see that visualization, artist myself, whatever, quantitative, that you'll just get the building.
Yeah.
But for the most part, whenever I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I get to travel. People don't understand, and I question everything.
Yeah.
I question all of it.
Right.
Because when you're traveling through and you're seeing something, you go and you see the dresser and you can open the drawer as if you're doing it. It's the weirdest thing. Not as weird as getting caught, by the way, but it's still interesting.
It's a ghost.
Well, you shouldn't be remote viewing there, sir.
Well, one spot I just went in, not really, I couldn't knock on the door, and it was I scared the hell out of this woman.
Stay out of that lady's underwear drawer.
I know.
You're like that. It was just.
I wonder what's in this woman's locker room right now.
Really. No. I got daughters, dude. I don't do that. But, yeah, we had somebody that was going to be a part of our team, and she wouldn't let anybody read her. She was blocking and putting up fields, and I went in and scared the crap out of her, and she was basically in her underwear. And she didn't like it. And I was like, she looked great, but I'm like, don't try to block us anymore. Trying to be respectful of the thing.
We're starting to run out of time here, so let's get to the crane tree before it's killing me.
Crane tree.
My ADD is killing me. And that's so it's that story. I'll let you, obviously it's your story. You're going to be able to do it better. But I mean, it's one of those, I like how you put it. It's like, a lot of skeptics aren't going to believe it, but it's one of those, I know of several people that have made that claim that they can read plants.
Right.
That plants have feelings and stuff, it's whether or not a lot of us want to believe that a carrot screams when we pluck it out of the ground, it's just, it's more.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because in my fourth book, which is finished and hopefully it'll come out early in 2024, and now I'm writing on my fifth book, so those will be coming out. But in my fourth book, I write about all the scientists. Now, used to it was the psychics and the hippies and the tree huggers and all this stuff. And it's like, get out of here so we can cut this forest down and build our shopping center. And now scientists. And in my book, I reference the scientists by name, the websites by address, all the places you can look this up. Now, mainstream scientists, not fringe scientists, mainstream scientists and biologists are telling us that trees have memory of past events, that plants communicate and have defense systems and communicate to other plants in the same area. Hey, this bug's over here trying to chew on me, activate your defenses. They've proven that trees send their roots underground, and when they get too close to one another, they emit chemicals that they kind of like, basically, hey, back off, buddy, my turf here. And then likewise, if they recognize other trees of their species, they'll send chemicals to them to help them grow and advance and be healthy, and so on and so forth. So all these things now that psychics used to say about this realm, about this genre, mainstream scientists and biologists are coming around saying, yes, trees have memory, plants have feelings, plants have intelligence, so on and so forth. So there's all these things.
I'm just picturing eating a piece of bread and I'm committing genocide.
I know, right? And that's one of the things. That's one of the things that I write about in my book, is this dichotomy of we have to kill something to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's a crappy system. It's a sucky system. If we're going to stay alive, something has to die. Either plant, vegetable, or mineral, whatever. It has to die so that we can live. And it's really a sucky system, and I address that at length in this fourth book. And it's really, we live in a world with a lot of dichotomies, and there's some things I've never been able to equalize or rationalize or come to grips with. When I was a kid, my father owned a stock farm, And we were real close to the Colorado River in Texas, where I grew up. And we could walk down to the Colorado River with our fishing poles and catch catfish, come back and have a big fish fry. So we had cows that were in the pasture, fenced in the pasture. And then we had cows. Some of them were milk cows and some were just cows that just kind of hung out around the house. And when we left with our fishing poles to go down to the river, these cows would follow us and go down to the river with us and wait out, maybe drink some water, and then come back in, chew the grass, graze on the grass, whatever. But basically, they liked our company, and they were like dogs, and they would follow us down to the river. They would stay there as long as we did. And when we were through fishing, we'd go back to the house, and they would follow us back to the house. Now, there's sentience. There's a desire for companionship. There's intelligence. There's motive. There's emotion. And yet, we had cows we shipped off to slaughter, and we ate hamburgers and relished them. You know, how do you reconcile that? I don't know. Well, I write a lot about.
I really miss Bessie.
Yeah.
Did you see the cows?
About,
winter's cold. Bring them in. You bring them in to be warm.
All this in that book, and about the conundrums that are there, and about the ethical things that we face, and how do you get around it? Can you get around it? You know, and. Look, animals are meat eaters. Animals are cannibals. You know, dragonflies are some of the most beautiful creatures there are. I have gotten some of the most magnificent photographs, close-up micro photographs and things of dragonflies that you've ever seen. And one of the most horrific things, I came out one day and I was setting up to shoot, and it was like, what is this dragonfly doing? And it was chowing down on this other one, the same size it was, just literally like that. And I was like, oh my God, how hideous. Yeah, you never name them. No kidding.
Yep.
You can't
Never
name
your
them,
food.
then you can't eat them.
Yep.
And it's just, there's all types of birds kill and eat other birds. It's just ridiculous, the world that we live in. And we try and make some kind of a compassionate difference. And, if we become vegetarian, we've still got the plants that are aware we're yanking them up. And
that's exactly what I was thinking right now. Like, all these vegans are, pardon the French, fucked, because now you're killing these plants. These plants have feelings.
Yeah. Well, wait, here's a really good one. There was this is documented, and I had it somewhere on one of my computers bookmarked, and I don't know if I can find it again or not, but this is documented. There was a murder, and the guy, I believe, owned a plant store, whatever, this and the other, a florist. And so they didn't have any clues, but they had this suspicion about this one guy that had murdered the owner of the floral shop. And they said, well, we don't have anything. There's no evidence. What are we going to do? How are we going to investigate this thing? And this one guy says, okay, here's what we're going to do. He said, we're going to take, we do have a witness. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? And he said, the plants in the store, the plants are witnesses. And he said, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. He says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hook up these plants to a meter. And we're going to run in a succession of people, innocent people, and then the guy we suspect as having done this, and then some more innocent people. And we're going to see if the plant registers any type of a reaction. They said, you're out of your mind. I said, let's try this. So they hook up the plant to this meter. They run in the innocent people, no response. Innocent people, no response. Innocent people, no response. The guy they suspected the murder, the plant goes ape shit crazy wild. The meter's going nuts, going crazy. They take the guy out, innocent people, no response. Innocent people, no response. Innocent people, no response. And sure enough, through further investigation, that was the guy that did it. So these plants had the ability to recognize and register the murderer.
That's awesome.
So, that puts a whole crazy twist into things.
I'm just thinking.
I'd like to call a ficus as my first witness, please.
The hibiscus that was in the back of the plant store, I'd like to call the hibiscus. Well, my theory is, look, I hooked the hibiscus to a meter, and jury, do you buy this? Hibiscus. Show him the killer.
I'm just picturing the jury and the judge looking like this Better Call Saul thing. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, as he's hooking up the meter to the plant, and
The judge is looking like this better be good. This better be good, prosecutor.
But let me tell you, we live in this world. Like, I've become aware of rock intelligence, and I have had so many bizarre manifestations occur with rocks and crystals that I've had that would just blow your mind. Animal intelligence, spiritual intelligence, intelligence in nature spirits, all these things that I've seen experience over the years. And I write about a lot of these things in my book, and there's a lot more coming out. So we live in a marvelous, fantastic, miraculous world. It can be horribly cruel. People think the plant and animal kingdom's all sweet and nice, and it's not. There's all kinds of atrocities that occur in the animal kingdom. Oh, yeah. And it's a marvelous, miraculous, amazing world, a difficult world, hard to figure out and understand. And if I've learned anything at all in all of this, it's exercise all of the compassion that you can and teach and encourage others to do the same.
Question for you. Did you ever, this is kind of weird for some people that have seen this possibly. There are some videos out there where the trees are starting to move by themselves.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a tree move by itself?
The wind?
No, it's not
like actually move.
They are moving by themselves.
Yeah.
It is really bizarre.
I know you're kidding. I was like, no, they literally move.
But I did see, and I write about this in one of my books. I went to a state park here in Florida. I used to hike the forest, hike the trails extensively. I've always loved nature and always been an outdoorsman. And on this one hiking trail, everybody here's from Florida, so you'll know what I'm talking about, saw palmetto. And there was a small saw palmetto that was about maybe 2 feet high, something like that. And as I'm hiking down the trail, I'm looking at it, and it's going like this. And the arc is about a 2 foot wide arc. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. What in the world's going on here? And so I look around. There's not a leaf stirring. There's no wind, which is unusual for Florida. It was one of the windiest damn places I've ever moved to, particularly when I lived over on the East Coast. And it was absolutely, totally, completely still. Not a leaf stirring, not a breeze, nothing. And this thing is rocking like this. And so as I get closer to it on the hiking path, I come up and I look at it, and now I can hear it. And it's like literally the stem is bending so strongly as it's going back and forth that it's like click, 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 click. I mean, loud, audibly. It's like a metronome going back and forth. This thing is rocking. So I'm just amazed. I look down at this thing. I get down on my hands and knees, and I look for a snake or a bug or a lizard or a whatever that might be the cause of this thing. There's nothing around. There's no wind. There's no breeze. There's nothing stirring, and there's nothing amiss with this plant. And so I stand up and I'm like, well, hello to you too. Thank you for.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's waving to you.
How are you doing? Do you have a particular message for me or any particular communication? I didn't get anything, and it continues to do that. And I said, well, I'm going to finish my hike, and I appreciate this manifestation. I appreciate the communication, and I'll see you when I get back by. So I go on, finish my hike, which took about, I guess, 20, 25 minutes out the path. And I come back up, and as I get to where I can see it, it's still going just as fast as it was before. So this is a good half hour or more now that this thing has been doing this. So I come back up again. There it is. Tick, 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 tick. So by this time, the plant stem has got to be wearing. It's got to be split in two, or it's got to be showing wear or something, right? Mm-hmm. I've been down, get down on my hands and knees and look, and the stem is perfectly intact, perfectly solid. Not a bit of shred, not a bit of tear, not a bit of wear, not a wrinkle in it. Just click, 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 click.
Who's a good plant? Who's a good plant?
Who's a good plant?
Who's a good plant? So I stand up again. I say, hey, I appreciate the communication. I got to go now. I got more ground to cover today. And blessings to you. Hope you send blessings to me. I walk off toward my bike, and every time I look back, it was still going. And not a breeze, not a bit of wind,
That's
not
cool.
nothing to account
wow.
for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't talk to the trees technically, but there are
Oh,
times
I
when
do.
you feel like you can. Well, there's been doing a lot more in the last couple of years than ever before. But
Yeah,
thank you. I say thank you
yeah,
to certain things and objects, and
absolutely,
you
absolutely.
give respect. This is why a lot of our indigenous people, they used to listen. This
Yeah,
is the whole. This is why, like Chris, like get your inner Native American or whatever, and listen to the trees, listen
and
to the
that's
wind.
going back to what I said. You got to
Yep.
listen. You got to get quiet and listen. You got to make that
You
contact.
got to buy the book.
I know we're getting close to running out of time, but would you like to hear a story about a snake that saved us from a beatdown?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Don't threaten me with a good
please.
time.
I had I was growing up in West Texas. I was taught, as everybody is, to fear snakes and to hate snakes. The only good snake is a dead snake. So I was in my teenage years, and I had this good buddy of mine, my best friend, and he would hop on the back of my motorcycle. And we'd go cruising up and down the drag looking for action, and we were going past this park. It was getting close to twilight, and there was this tall, skinny guy out there, and I was tall and skinny at the time. And there was this tall, skinny guy out in the park, and there was like this 12, 14-foot long snake out there with him, slowly crawling through the grass. And I looked over and I was like, holy shit. And I hit the throttle like, I'm out of here. And my buddy goes, no, go back. I know this guy. Like, I'm not, did you see that thing? I'm not going back. He's like, go back. I know this guy. So I circled around, went back to the park, parked on the side of the street there. And he said, come meet my buddy. And I'm like, no, thank you. And he's like, no, come on, man, meet my buddy. I'm like, no, you go and meet your buddy and you can come back to the bike and we'll go on about our business. So he went up there and was talking to the guy, and finally they cajoled me into coming up and said, John, don't be rude. Come meet my friend. Oh, okay, whatever. So I said, y'all come stand over here, because the snake's head is way down there and his tail's up here. He's stretched out straight, and he's just basically lolling through the grass and enjoying being out in the park. And so I said, y'all come over here by his tail where he can't get me. And so they come over there, and he introduced me to his friend. We were talking, and I started asking him about the snake. He tells me he's got this psychic connection basically with the snake. I'm like, oh, no, bullshit. And
bullshit.
And so he's telling me he's had this snake since it was a baby. It was like a foot long when he got it. And now this thing's 12, 14 foot long. Its head's bigger than my hand, big friggin' gigantic head. And so he says, go over and just touch the snake. I'm like, yeah, you're out of your friggin' mind. He said, no, go to the tail where the head's not at. Just touch the snake. Just feel the snake. So I gathered up my courage and I went over there and I touched the tail end of the snake, and up comes his head and he swivels around to look back, and I jump and run. Oh my God, he's going to attack me. He's not going to attack you. I said, he just realizes that someone that he doesn't know has touched him. He wants to see who. So now I'm going, oh, so now snakes got feelings, emotions, sentience, consciousness. They know who's touching them and who's not. This is a little bit too much. So we're standing there talking some more. And he said, John, he said, just go over, just grab him, just get a hold of him, just get a feel of him. I promise you, he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to bite you. Just go. So he finally talks me into it. So I go over and I bend down, still way away from the head. And I reach underneath him and I grab him. Of course, his body is massive. And I feel him, and it's like, my God, this power, this strength. And he's crawling real slowly through my hands. He doesn't care what I'm doing. He knows I'm not going to hurt him, and he knows his owner's there to take care of him. So I'm like, my God, this is and then I begin to feel not only the energy, but the spirit from the snake. And I'm like, no, this can't be. I've been taught snakes are evil malingerers. They just hang around and wait to scare you or bite you or whatever. And like, this can't be that this thing has emotion and intelligence and all this. So this is freaking me out. So it's getting close to dark now. And the guy that owns the snake says, hey, let's go up to the diner up the street here and we'll all get a bite. And I said, how are you going to, why? Yeah, this 14-foot long snake. How are you going to take this thing in the diner? And he says, oh, I just put him in the sack, and he crawls up in the sack. And the guy that owns the diner knows me, and I carry him in there all the time, put him in the bench in the sack. Everything's okay. I'm like, this is just getting weirder and weirder and weirder. So, okay. So we go and hop on the bike, and the guy walks up the street. We're only a couple of blocks from the diner, so we meet in the diner in the parking lot. And as we're getting out, these chicks pull in this car, and they recognize the guy with the snake. Hey, you got the snake with you? Well, of course I got the snake. He never goes anywhere without the snake. If he goes someplace, the snake can't go in, he don't go in. I mean, this is the bond they have, right? So the gals are like, oh, let me see the snake. Let me see the snake. So he takes the snake out, partway out of the sack, and they're sitting there talking, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at these chicky poos. Here's me a chance to get a little action. So about this time, he turns around, hands me the snake, says, John, hold the snake. And without thinking, I reflexively reach out and I grab this thing. So I've got 9 jillion pounds of monster snake in my arms, and I'm like, oh my God. And the chicks are laughing at me, and I'm like, well, I've lost all street cred. There goes any chance of picking any of these chicks up. And the snake looks around at me like this, and I'm like, he's going to bite me. He's going to bite me. And he's not going to bite you. That's the way he turns his head around. He has to move his neck and turn his head around to be able to see you. He's not going to bite you. And the chicks are laughing their head off. My buddy's laughing his head off. I said, I've lost all street cred forever and a day. So we put the snake back in the sack. We go inside and sit down. He said, John, you sit with the snake by you, and I'll sit by our friend here. So I'm 6 foot, probably about 140. I did a lot of distance running and stuff. The guy with the snake, he's 6 foot. He's about as skinny as I am. My buddy is literally, no exaggeration, built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's only like 5'5", 5'6", right? Now, me and my buddy, we were like super into the martial arts. Kung Fu, Taekwondo, Shotokan, Tang Sudo, all kinds of stuff. Weaponry, nunchaka, everything, the whole 9 yards worth. We were really good. We were really proficient. We were really tough guys. But we happened to sit down behind this booth of guys, and there were 4 of them. And the smallest one of the bunch was about 6 foot 220. And there wasn't a guy there that was fat. It was all hard, lean, solid muscle. And he was the baby of the bunch. And the other guys were like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", maybe 250, maybe even 275. Big old, huge, muscled up guys. Now, we had long hair, and this was the era of the cowboys and the hippies, right? And all this conflict and everything going on back in Texas. And so we're sitting there minding our own business, and these guys look over, see our long hair, and they start talking about how much fun it's going to be to mop up the floor with us. And they're going to take us outside, and they're going to beat the snot out of us, and that's going to be a good tune-up for when they go to the bars and wreak havoc there. And they're laughing and carrying on, and they're serious. And I'm sitting there with my buddies, and I'm like, you know, we're not in a good situation here. And my buddy and I are so proficient in these martial arts, but when you're that small and you got guys this big, you're going to have to put a whole lot of hurt on them real fast to save yourself in the situation. And we're like, this is really not looking good. And so the guy that owns the snake says, hey, John, make sure the snake's okay. I said, do what? He said, make sure the snake's okay. I said, what do you mean? He said, open up the bag, make sure he's all right. So I'm still scared of the damn snakes. I open up the bag and I look in, there's his big old head, and he looks up at me, he's flicking his tongue out. And I said, man, he's fine. He said, no. He said, pull him out, make sure he's all right. All right. So I hold my breath, reach in, I grab him, and I start pulling him out, and he helps me. He starts crawling out of the bag, and I hold about 4 or 5 feet of this monster up in the air. His head's bigger than my hand. And the one guy sees the snake, screams and curses, jumps over the counter into the kitchen, and runs out the front door. The other 2 guys turn around to look and see what the heck has spooked this guy and what he's screaming at. They see the snake. They jump up and curse and run out the front door. And the one guy that's left sitting there goes, well played, gentlemen. Well played. Signs his check, gets up, walks out. And I told the guy, I says, whatever this rascal eats, I said, I'll buy him a steak right now, whatever. And he said, well, he said, he doesn't eat steak. And I don't think they have live rabbit on the menu, but he said, if you will communicate to him that you appreciate what he's done for us tonight, that he saved us, and just tell him thank you, he'll know, he'll understand. And I did, and I believe the snake got it. So that's the snake that saved us.
That's awesome. I'm like picturing your friend as Jake the Snake Roberts from WWE. I'm just picturing the the gunny sack, just like I said, with a snake in it. Oh my God. Well, man, we got to wrap it up.
There you go.
Yeah, gotta go to sleep.
All right. Well, John, stick out right after the show. We got a question for you. Real quick.
Sure.
But yeah, so everybody, thanks for watching. Man, thank you for the stars. Really appreciate you guys.
Okay, appreciate everybody. Appreciate being here. It's been wonderful, and we'll do it again down the road.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
And let's see here. I'm going to put
I
this.
think we need to take a road trip to John's place.
Just make sure everybody, I said, go to johnrussellauthor.com.
Right.
Go check that out. That way you can click right there. You can get all the information right here. Buy it now links. You can pick up the books, especially the one that we were talking about, 20 ways to increase your psychic abilities, as well as Riding with Ghosts, Angels, and the Spirits of the Dead, and A Knock in the Attic. So definitely. Plus the one that we've teased a little bit, it's upcoming fourth and now a fifth.
The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock, that'll be out next year. And then I'm writing on my fifth book right now, which is The Cansack Ghost. So
nice.
A lot of good more stories to come.
Cool.
Yep, and or say, well, yeah, you're going to definitely want to watch this. This was a really good one. Yeah, this was definitely one that people are going to enjoy. So, John, I really appreciate you. Like I said, coming in again. Like I said, this was great. But yeah, definitely,
you guys. Thank you so much.
Definitely, we need to do this again. So,
absolutely.
All right, everybody, we will see you next week when we have. Brian, help me out with the name. It's just failing me right now.
Perodin, safety doctor.
Yes, thank you.
He was in tonight, but he's
in the very beginning. Yeah, so that'll be.
No, he's a great guy.
Yeah, so we're gonna have him on next weekend, so that's gonna be really good to get that. So, and if for those of those who can't join us or anything, have a great Thanksgiving for the people that can't make that next one. So
have a good Thanksgiving. I'll be in the mountains, so I don't know how my service will be, but I'll be on vacations. Gatlinburg.
How you don't have beard dander there, Ellen, is there's beard oil, and when you put stuff like beard soaps and stuff, keep it from that. That's what keeps it from doing this and then having snow fall underneath.
Well, me? No, I don't have snow.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. It's just you got to moisturize, sir. Just because you have a beard doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of the chin and the stuff.
I put bourbon in mine.
That's right. Yeah, it's just moisturize.
Straight bourbon right there.
Yeah, your wife's like, shouldn't you learn how to drink by now? Honey, this is what's keeping me preserved right now. It's that just seeping in the bourbon right through the skin.
Our new slogan: not all beard is a good beard. That's a good one.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
So, all right, everybody. Well, hey, take care. We'll see you on the next episode. Appreciate everybody watching. Good night.
Good night.
Good job.